Thank you all for coming. We, not the royal we, myself and several other people, recently published this book, A Comprehensive Guide to Bhagavad Gita with Literal Translation. Prabhupada once wrote me a letter in which he said, read my books and explain them in your own words. And my own words tend to be, hopefully, faithful and devotional, but also Western and rational. So, in service to Prabhupada, I tried to present Bhagavad Gita. First of all, there's 150-page, what you could call systematic theology or systematic philosophy, which I try to explain categorically what is in the Gita, using the Gita's own language in the sense that, because for many years, probably most of my life, I've relished reading the Gita, especially in Sanskrit, and having learned from Prabhupada what it actually means, I've always enjoyed very much reading the Gita in Sanskrit. And there are many amazing connections. If you know Sanskrit, you see, like, the same word appears in different places, and these connections don't always appear in translation. So, my goal was to take the reader as deeply as possible within the Sanskrit text. The translation is very literal. Prabhupada did the hard part. He brought Krishna. And so I'm building on that. Translation is very literal. The idea was that if you read the translation, you know really exactly what's in the Sanskrit, as far as possible. That's literally, according to the literal meanings of the Sanskrit words, that's actually what it says in Sanskrit. And then the systematic philosophy or theology is based entirely on the Sanskrit text. I think I quote one other Shastra in the entire book, it's the Bhagavatam, but basically it's just showing the internal connections in the Sanskrit text and how Krishna is defining terms and making points and so on. So, I thought I'd give you an example of that. The point I wanted to show is that Krishna is teaching that the individual soul, or the conditioned soul, is not God, and God is not a conditioned soul. And this comes out actually just by looking at the literal meanings of the Sanskrit words. And so I thought I'd read this now and to give you the idea. So, terms reserved for souls, meaning individual souls. Bhuta, Jiva, Dehi. Bhuta. Krishna often refers to souls in bodies as Bhuta, plural Bhutani, which I translate as being in the sense of a living being. Although Krishna is certainly a being, the Gita never refers to him as Bhuta, and we shall see why. The word Bhuta comes from the verbal root bhu, which means to be, but also often means to become. In this sense, Bhuta means one who has come to be, i.e., one who has become. The Gita makes clear early on, and for all the things I'm saying, I'm actually quoting verses. I'm not going to read all the numbers, but at this point, virtually almost every sentence is a paraphrase of a Gita verse, which I'm putting together, so it's actually Krishna speaking. Gita makes clear early on that both God and individual souls have always existed. For example, that's 2:12. Thus, what comes to be is not soul itself, but rather soul's ephemeral persona, produced when soul enters body. Krishna directly states that a Bhuta arises when matter and spirit combine. And that's 7:4 through 8. One may literally translate 8:19 through 20 as follows. This very group, those who have come to be, after repeatedly becoming, are helplessly dissolved. There is, however, another superior state that does not perish when all who have become are perishing. Since Krishna time and again states that souls never perish, clearly what perishes here is the composite identity formed when soul enters body. Thus, our identity as woman, man, dog, bird, or tree arises when a living conscious soul animates an otherwise dead material body, creating thereby a living temporary creature, a bhuta. This composite persona is literally dissolved when soul leaves body. Yet since Krishna does not take on a material body, he is not a bhuta. His identity as Krishna does not come to be like our worldly identities. Krishna has always been Krishna, 2:12, and will forever be Krishna, the Supreme Divine Person. Bound to a material body, a bhuta must follow nature, 3:13. The bhuta seeks freedom from nature, 13:35. Krishna controls nature, 9:10. He is not a bhuta. The Gita never states that his body or his identity comes to be. The Gita describes Krishna's relation to bhutas, to souls like us, whose temporary identity does come to be. Krishna is a kind-hearted friend to every bhuta, 5:29. The eternal seed of every bhuta, 7:10. He knows every bhuta, past, present, and future, 7:26. He is the great Lord of bhutas, 9:11. And their origin, 9:13. He is equal to every bhuta, 9:29, 13:28. And as the master causes all bhutas to be, 10:15. He is the beginning, middle, and end of bhutas, 10:20, and their preserver, 13:17. He sustains bhutas by his power, 15:13, for he is their Lord, 18:61. And at eon's end, the bhuta enters Krishna's own nature, 9:7. So again, those are all verses where Krishna talks about his relationship with bhutas. The conclusion: as souls, as persons, as parts of God, we are one with him. Yet we are also different. In this world, we do business as bhutas. Krishna does not. The Gita employs other important terms to indicate souls, but not God. Jiva. The word jiva, life, living, usually indicates, quote, the personal or living soul as distinguished from the universal soul. And that's from the most important Sanskrit English dictionary by Monier Williams. Similarly, the term jivatman, living soul, indicates, quote, the living or personal or individual soul as distinct from the paramatman, the supreme soul. Again, that's from the dictionary. The Gita twice calls the soul jiva bhuta, living being, at 7.5 and 15.7, but never uses this term for God. The Gita also uses for individual souls, but never for God, several terms relating to our bodies. Now I discuss that. Dehan, Shariran, Dehavrit, Dehavat. Bhagavad Gita's most common word for body is Deha. And 11 times, which I list, the Gita calls the soul Dehin, one who has a body, or the embodied. Thus soul is distinct from body. Another word for body is Sharira, and the soul is called Sharirin, at 218, one who has a body, or the embodied. The Gita also describes the soul as Dehabrit, one who bears a body. There's three verses that use that term. And Dehavat, one who has a body, once. Krishna twice uses the word Kalevara, also meaning body, to describe how the soul gives up a material body at death. That's at 8.5 and 6. In the Gita, all these Sanskrit terms, Dehin, Shariran, Dehabrit, Dehavat, and Kalevara, clearly indicate a soul as distinct from its material body. Yet the Gita uses none of these terms, nor any similar terms, to describe Krishna. The Gita gives no indication that Krishna, the Supreme Soul, and he's called the Supreme Soul at 6, 7, 13, 23, 15, 17, no indication that Krishna is different from his body. This is entirely consistent with our analysis of Bhuta. At the start, Krishna tells us that we are eternal souls in temporary bodies. 3 verses. Our body is matter, apara prakriti, the Lord's inferior energy, but we souls are para prakriti, the Lord's superior living energy. The Gita never describes Krishna's body as material, temporary, or limited. Rather, his form is ananta, infinite. That's at 11.16 and 11.38. Krishna describes soul's transmigration from one body to another at 2:13. Souls give up old bodies as one gives up old worn-out clothes, 2:22. However, spiritual knowledge travels with the soul from one body to another. Thus, spiritual practitioners regain spiritual knowledge, quote, from a past body, unquote. That's 643. Many verses describe the soul giving up or letting go of the body. However, none of this language is applied to Krishna. Krishna and Arjuna both appeared in this world many times. The Lord recalls all these births, but Arjuna does not. 4:5. That is because Krishna's birth and activities are divine. 4:9. Due to karma, ordinary souls accept and give up a physical body. But karma laws cannot affect Krishna. 4:14. They cannot force him to accept a material body, for he rules nature with all its laws. That's 9:10. Krishna often states that he is within the soul's body, specifically in the heart. I give a sample of such verses: 8:2, 8:22, 13:23, 13:3, 13:16, 13:17, 13:28, 15:14, 15:15, 16:18, 18:61. All verses where Krishna explains that he's within the heart of the soul. But Krishna never says that he is within his own body. There's no hint of Krishna giving up his body or of his body taking birth or dying as our bodies do. A final point here. In the Gita, Krishna often speaks of bondage and freedom with various noun and verb forms of the root much, like mukti, moksha. Krishna teaches us of the soul's liberation from birth and death. That's 2:51, 4:9, 4:14, and many other verses I list, where Krishna talks about the soul being free from death. Freed from karma, 2:39, 3:31. You get the idea. I'm giving all the verses. Freed from evil. And there are a number of verses where Krishna talks about the soul being freed from evil. Freed from anger, lust, and fear. I give several. From duality, from attachment, or simply from bondage. And while one can easily compile a similar list of words indicating bondage, the Gita nowhere hints that Krishna is ever bound by or freed from anything. In the Gita, he is God, personally. Clearly, the Gita teaches that God does not have a material body as we do. He is never bound or freed. Yet Krishna appeared in this world as a human or human-like person. People saw Krishna, embraced him, spoke with him. How are we to understand Krishna's body? Here, too, the Gita comes to our rescue. Now, this next section is called Krishna's original form, or Rupa. We saw that the Gita calls the soul Dehi, Shariri, Dehabrit, and Dehavat, Sanskrit terms indicating one who is somehow separate or different from one's body. None of these Sanskrit terms describe Krishna. The Gita often describes how souls give up their bodies and take another. None of this applies to Krishna. Nothing in the Gita suggests that Krishna is separate or different from his body. Krishna often states that he is within the body of embodied souls, within their hearts, but Krishna never states that he is within his own body. Unlike the soul's birth under the stringent laws of nature, Krishna rules nature and takes divine birth by his own power. And there's reference for that.